It's a pleasure to speak in this debate and to follow my honourable friend, the member for Wolverhampton South West. My honourable friend, the member for Wrexham, when she was in her place earlier on, outlined the concept of lawfare. And there can be no doubt that this exists, and it's been exploited and led to vexatious claims against our brave armed forces personnel over a considerable period of time. Cases such as that of Major Robert Campbell are absolutely scandalous. This man had to face 8 separate investigations over 17 years. He's only 47, so more than 1/3 of his life, into a single incident that took place back in 2003. Each investigation cleared him, only for the goalpost to be moved for each successive investigation. The toll taken on this completely innocent man, who has put his life on the line for his country, has been enormous. Tragically and shamefully, he is not alone. To put this into perspective, there's a long-running streak of claims being dismissed as far back as the 2009 Al-Saweedi inquiry, which took 5 years, cost £25 million, and his conclusion was that the allegations were, and I quote, wholly without foundation and entirely the product of lies, reckless speculation and ingrained hostility. Furthermore, the Iraq Historic Allegations team determined that 70% of cases did not have a case to answer, or that it would be disproportionate to conduct an investigation. Similarly, the Service Police Legacy investigations, as of June of this year, had closed or was in the process of closing 1,200 allegations. And Operation Northmoor, which took 3 years and cost £10 million, resulted in no charges. But all of this takes a significant time and causes huge distress to those under repeated investigation. Our servicemen and women make enormous sacrifices on behalf of our country, and this practice of hounding them must come to an end. So it is right that the government is seeking to raise the bar for prosecutions to overseas operations by requiring prosecutors to have proper regard to the uniquely challenging circumstances, and we've just heard some from my honourable friend, into which we send our personnel to risk their lives on our behalf. Now, Mr Deputy Speaker, opponents of this bill have stated that the bill would issue an amnesty for torture and war crime offences, but this is simply not the case. As the Minister had been at pains to make clear, the bill does not provide blanket immunity from prosecution. It merely raises the threshold for the prosecution of alleged offences. Opponents have also claimed that this bill would damage the reputation of our armed forces. Mr Deputy Speaker, I question instead what sort of a country we would be if we allowed our armed forces to continue to make enormous personal sacrifices, only to return back home and be at the mercy for years of tank-chasing lawyers such as Phil Shiner, who was, of course, struck off for his actions. Now, the Minister has outlined at length that the bill meets the UK's obligations under domestic and international law, and I look forward to hearing him do so again in his closing speech. I believe, Mr Deputy Speaker, that most members on both sides of this House sincerely support our armed forces, but there have always been some that have taken side against our armed forces and shown no respect whatsoever for our veterans. I am not among them. In closing, Mr Deputy Speaker, I am inclined to agree with the comments of my honourable friend, the member for Tunbridge and Malling, who stated that this bill goes some way to protecting our armed forces, but probably does not go far enough. However, it does improve the current unacceptable position, and that's why I'm supporting this bill, Mr Deputy Speaker, to protect our armed forces.